Hello, ghosties. I'm Chance Lee,
And I'm Amanda McAvoy.
and this is That's So Gothic, a movie podcast about girls, guys, and haunted houses. And Amanda, I think this is a great episode to listen to in the bath for tubby time. It's Creep.
All right, we are leaving the flatlands and we are heading up towards the mountaintop. The ad said $1,000 for the day, filming services. Discretion is appreciated.
A yellow door. And realizing that no one knows I'm here.
Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you.
I'm assuming you're Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron, nice to meet you.
Joseph. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is gonna be a good day.
So the reason I've hired you is because I have terminal brain cancer, and I want you to film me to make a video diary for my unborn son.
You ready for this?
Okay.
Joseph.
This is called an adventure. We don't know exactly where we're going, but I have a feeling. When you follow those feelings, great things can happen. Don't ever forget that.
Joseph?
There was about 2 seconds there where it looked like you wanted to kill me.
Joseph? I think I'm gonna head back. You see my keys?
One drink, okay?
Bottoms up.
You need to get out of that house right now.
Joseph. Joseph.
Why do you look scared? Don't be scared. It'll all be over soon.
Released in 2014, Creep was written and directed by and stars Patrick Brice, as well as Mark Duplass, who also co-wrote and co-starred in the movie. And this is ostensibly the story of a man with a terminal illness who hires someone to preserve his final days on film for his son, or so he says. Ooh. So Creep was released on Netflix, so there's no box office or other revenue data.
Right.
It has a 91% critical tomato
Wow.
and a 66% audience tomato, which is a big
Wow. A big
disparity.
divide. Yeah.
And RogerEbert.com did not review it. Big miss there. But one of their writers named Peyton Robinson analyzed this movie in a 2023 column called Trust Your Gut, The Role of Conscience in Horror.
Ooh.
And so I want to compare and contrast two things. One is a 1-star Rotten Tomato review from someone named Sydney P. And then the other is a paragraph from the Peyton Robinson column for RogerEbert.com. So here's Sydney's 1-star review. This was 82 minutes of the protagonist making truly the worst decisions possible with almost no established motivations. My dude drives to a mountaintop cabin at night. It's during the day.
Yeah.
Somewhere he's never been for $200 by himself. Then proceeds to tolerate the absolute most from a clearly deranged man. I'm sorry, but as soon as the wolf mask comes out, I'm leaving as quickly as possible.
Okay. I'm sure you are.
Sydney's so smart, smart and superior. And anyway, here's Peyton Robinson for Roger Ebert. While we as viewers may roll our eyes or plead at our TVs begging him to leave, objectively, we can't call him wrong. It's part of the human condition. Catching yourself in a moment of judgment or apprehension, and talking yourself out of it is a universal experience. Empathy and social conscience can be easily manipulated by others as well as ourselves inadvertently. Whether it's external puppet strings or the simple desire to be a good person, in Aaron's case, that's the protagonist, he falls victim to both. The suppression of your gut instinct is a horrifyingly realistic way to find yourself in the face of violence.
I very much agree with that take. It's funny, I think the older I get, you would almost think it would be the opposite, but the older I get, the more I relate to horror movie protagonists who get sort of stuck in these situations, because I think the older you get, the more empathetic you can be. You know, it's not true for everyone, but the empathy is real. The sense of duty, the sense of responsibility that you could have. I mean, I watched this movie for the first time only a couple of years ago, but I could imagine if I had watched it when I was younger and more jittery, I would say, I could see, you know, maybe agreeing with the review by Sydney. But no, I absolutely agree that when I watched it this time for the second time, I saw nothing that Aaron did was wrong, honestly.
Right. You can see how it goes because,
Yeah.
especially when we'll get into it, you know, he goes from being in these kind of uncomfortable moments to then being asked to question them, and it ripples. And
Yes.
there's a push and pull to it. It's not like he's just blindly going along with it. There's always tension there in the script.
Yeah. And I think too, you know, this is a short movie. It's a very, very short movie. So you don't know a whole lot of Aaron's background, because as I'm watching it, I'm thinking about all the people he, you know, could have turned to or something. But what if he doesn't have that support group? You know, it's a short movie. And I think that's what makes it good, though, is because it's kind of ambiguous on that. You don't know what Aaron's upbringing was like. You don't know what circumstances led him to exactly be there. You get some snippets, but it's really up for your own interpretation.
Right. And he's the type of person who would answer this ad for $200.
Yeah,
I feel like to me, that's all you need to know.
Yes. Yeah. Very good point.
He's, you know, desperate or needs it enough to be in this situation.
Yes.
And the movie even, like, Sydney is not paying attention because the movie even, like, explicitly calls that out later on.
Yes. Yeah. And well, I mean, clearly, because she said that he shows up at night. He shows up in broad daylight.
It's broad daylight. Like, Sydney, wake up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really liked what they said on the RogerEbert.com review, because that gives me a little bit more depth to maybe why I feel this way. But when people's criticism of horror movies is in, like,
yes,
they made a stupid decision, or even worse, I wouldn't do that, is the most asinine form of criticism possible. Like, it holds absolutely no substance and seems to only serve to position the critiquer as superior or more intelligent or more savvy. And it's just like, shut the fuck up, Sydney. You didn't even know. You can't even tell the difference between day and night, bitch. So like, sit down.
Right. Like, I think it's important as moviegoers that we do try to, like, consider the characters' like motivations and things like that. But, you know, that's the whole point of watching a movie, is that you can't know everything that goes on in a split second decision. And just like you can't know in real life when you're watching someone else. So yeah, Sydney, take that.
Wow, creep is a metaphor for life. I love this already.
So
but
it's the deepest movie we've talked about so far.
It's pretty deep.
Yeah.
And yeah, it only has two people in it, which is crazy. So it's got the two guys who both co-wrote the movie. Patrick Brice also directed it. I don't know anything about him.
Him, I don't know anything about.
And Mark Duplass, I've seen here and there quite a few times. He acts, he directs, he writes. He rose up from what they call the mumblecore movement, which also kind of gave birth to Greta Gerwig. So Wikipedia defines mumblecore as a subgenre of independent film characterized by naturalistic acting and sometimes improvised dialogue. Low budgets, an emphasis on dialogue over plot, and a focus on the personal relationships of young adults. Filmmakers associated with the genre include Lynn Shelton, the Duplass brothers, Greta Gerwig, Joe Swanberg. And it says the genre is a mostly American phenomenon. And then they say the related term mumble gore has been used for films mixing the mumblecore and horror subgenres.
Oh, that's fun.
So who knew?
I know. Who is the other brother? Mark Duplass's.
Yeah, so his brother is named Jay.
Okay.
And they've like co-created stuff together. And Jay is in a few episodes of Search Party, which might qualify as a mumblecore show.
Oh.
That's with Alia Shawkat.
Oh,
and she plays a college student. They graduated college and they're like directionless. And she finds out that this girl who she went to college with, but never actually probably ever talked to, has gone missing. And she decides to make it her like life's mission to find her.
Oh, that sounds really interesting.
Her friends are all self-absorbed and are just like, why do you want to spend time doing this?
Yeah.
And she's kind of trying to make this girl's disappearance all about her. And the first maybe 2 seasons of that show are absolutely brilliant.
Really?
And then the 3rd season starts to careen off a little bit.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was on for 4 or 5 years, but the last season has zombies in it.
Oh my God.
It goes so far off the rails that like even I love when things kind of go off the rails, but this felt like y'all need to stop.
Interesting. It still sounds interesting. I kind of want to give that a go.
Highly recommend the first season. Like it could be, I can't even remember how the first season ends, but like, you know, you don't always need a resolution. You especially don't need the resolution to be, oh, yada, yada, yada. Now the characters are living in a survivor camp while there's a zombie outbreak.
Yes. Yes.
Like, I just cannot believe the stuff they did with that. Yeah. But he's in that. And for the longest, I don't know why, probably because I think they played a married couple once, but I thought Mark Duplass was married to Amanda Peet.
Oh.
And I was really excited
similar
to talk about Amanda Peet. God, maybe they're related, but she's not married to him. She's not married to his brother. I don't know how I got that in my head, but just wanted to say love Amanda Peet.
Yeah, she's great. I love her.
And then I have to point out this one line from Mark Duplass's Wikipedia page that I can't remember seeing any line quite like this on anyone else's Wikipedia page. His ancestry is, I'm going to start this over. It was so weird I can't even form the words in my mouth. His ancestry includes French Cajun, Italian, Ashkenazi Jewish, and German.
Great. How do they know all that?
I know. I didn't even click the footnote. I was just like, why?
Okay.
Like, there's so many things you could put on someone's Wikipedia page, and like that is not one of them I've ever wondered.
Wow, fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now that you've said, let me click the footnote. We'll click the footnote live and see.
Yeah.
See what that leads to. Okay, just an article and. There's an article in the New Yorker. Jay Duplass doesn't want to be a Coen brother anymore.
Oh.
Somehow it comes up in that. So neither of these articles are about their ancestry. So someone picked this out of some random article about something else and put it into
and felt it was
Wikipedia
really
page.
Necessary for his Wikipedia. Interesting.
Very strange.
So I only knew Mark Duplass sort of. I never even like sat down and watched this show. I think it was something my brother really enjoyed, was the show The League, which is a comedy show all about fantasy football leagues. And he was really funny in that, I remember. And I remember liking the show for the most part. I just, as someone who doesn't care about fantasy football, couldn't get that much into it. But, you know, I'm sure it'll kind of come up a little bit later. But this is one of those movies, you know, sort of like a Jordan Peele movie where it like is horror thriller, but it incorporates some subtle funny parts, and it's something I definitely noticed more on the rewatch. So it's always really fun for me to watch a movie that, you know, a horror movie that has like some input by someone who has like a comedic background, because I think it adds like a really interesting dimension to it.
I think this movie's very funny. I
Yeah.
find Mark Duplass like immensely charming as well,
Yes.
and just a perfect fit for this.
Yes. Yeah. Which also is, why I don't blame Aaron. He's very charming. He's very likable.
Yes.
Hmm.
And as you said, this is a short movie. It's only 80
Mhm.
minutes long. It's our second found footage movie. We watched The Visit,
Mm.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yes.
I love a found footage movie. I think
Same.
they lend themselves well to this type of dialogue that may be improvised a lot of it because
Yes.
it's so
Yeah.
naturalistic. And it sounds like you've seen this one before, correct?
Mhm. Yes.
I watched it, maybe only like a month or two ago. I
Oh,
saw it very
really?
recently, yeah. And I watched it with a friend who talked throughout the entire thing, which was obnoxious.
Fantastic. Yeah.
But I still enjoyed it despite that.
Yeah.
And I don't think I mentioned that there is a sequel. There's a Creep 2.
Yes.
And I won't reveal too much about it. And this is one of the few movies I'll say to the go-sees, if you haven't seen this, I do recommend watching it first.
Yes. I agree.
I'm not like, I think most of the time spoilers don't, like, if a
Mm.
spoiler affects something really that bad, maybe it's not worth watching. And I do
Yes.
think you can enjoy this movie knowing where it's going, but I think you're missing out on two distinctly different experiences.
Yes. I definitely agree because especially as someone who's watched this twice now with some time in between, the first time I watched it, I absolutely adored this movie. The second time I didn't like it as much, but I was able, I think, to get more out of it. So, and especially because the second time I watched it, there were parts that I had forgotten and things like that. So I definitely agree. If you can, watch the movie first. Like, steal someone's Netflix.
Mhm.
I know that they have all of those stupid strict rules now. But
Yeah, they caught me. They caught me sharing a
They
password.
got you?
They caught me.
No.
Yeah, so now the person I was sharing the password from had to add me on their family plan
Oh,
for $7 extra a month, and now
ridiculous.
I Venmo them $21 quarterly for the right to use Netflix.
That's wild. I actually just signed up for Netflix for this and that Tim Robinson comedy show. I think you should leave. I don't know if you've ever watched it. It's very funny. But I fully intend on canceling it after a month or two. I hate giving them any money. Yeah.
I put my Amazon Prime on hold because they added ads in January 2024. I think the only streaming service currently I pay for is Netflix because
Wow.
it has all the bonkers true crime docuseries that I
true.
enjoy
Yeah.
and Pokemon. And those are my two genders, Pokemon and horror.
Yeah. That's true. See, for me, I have to pay for HBO because I have to watch The Sopranos because my gender is
that now.
Italian man. So
Who wants
American
a cannoli?
Italian.
Yeah.
Love a cannoli. So yeah, I'll get rid of Netflix event. Netflix is one of those ones that I will sign up for randomly and kind of have for like a month or two, but for the most part, it just annoys me.
Well, at least it has Creep.
Yes, it does, which is good.
Yes. And Creep 2, and I do recommend watching that one as well, even if I didn't like it as much.
Yeah. It's not as strong, but it's still good. And not to spoil anything, but I think Creep 2 goes a little bit more in the ridiculous funny direction. So if that's something you liked about the first Creep, I would definitely recommend the second one.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
So let's spoil the movie now.
All right.
Our plot summary. So we begin with Aaron, who is some sort of freelance camera person. Most of the movie is told through his perspective. He's holding a camera and filming everything because he is answering, I don't know, like a Craigslist ad for $200, he'll film someone. He doesn't know who this person is. He says that he makes this kind of joke that he hopes it's a middle-aged woman who wants a rub down, which is kind of funny and also kind of like, wait, who's the creep here?
Right. Yeah.
But also that does characterize him a lot. It's like, okay, we know he probably doesn't have a relationship. He needs $200. Like he has 8 hours. He has this full day to just do this.
Right.
So, we learn a lot about him, I think. This whole plot summary is just going to be a attack against Sylvia or whatever her name was.
Yeah.
I've already forgotten her name. Sydney.
Yeah. He pulls up to the house on a bright clear day.
It is so sunny.
Yeah.
Like, he's able to see everything. He walks around
Right.
the house.
Yeah, and
He sees an
she calls it like
axe.
a mountain, cabin or something. It's not like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like it looks like,
Oh,
if you go to like the White Mountains in like New Hampshire, like I'm sure there's neighbors. Like it's not in the middle of nowhere.
no, they're literally like an hour outside of LA.
Yeah.
Like they're literally where they filmed it. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, yeah, it's nice. It's
Yeah.
cute.
Right.
And yeah, not and the thing I like that this movie does so much, especially the first time I watched it, I didn't know where it was going.
Yeah.
I really felt similar to the Aaron character, which is like, am I actually, I'm going to save this for the Gothic roundup, so we have something to talk about there. But there's always a like, what's going on here element to it,
yes.
and the film shows that it's like, oh, there's an axe. Oh, it's quiet.
Yeah.
Right. And then we meet Joseph, who like suddenly appears. Oh,
Yeah.
he appears at the driver's side window,
Uh-huh.
and immediately like wants to bring down boundaries. He gives him a hug. He's just overly familiar right off the bat. He goes up the stairs and he's wearing these tight little running pants that have this zipper pocket like right above the crack. Like it's centered. It's not over either cheek, it's centered. And
it's centered, yeah. It's like a horizontal crack.
Yes, and like I think that is so funny. And two, this is a left turn, but have you ever seen the Coneheads movie?
No, I don't think I have actually.
I actually highly recommend the Coneheads movie.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of SNL or comedies really, and I do have some nostalgia for it, but I watched it maybe like 5 years ago and still thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
But there's a scene where you see, so Dan Aykroyd plays a conehead, which is like an SNL character.
Yeah.
They're aliens, they have giant cones for heads, but no one ever seems to acknowledge it. They're just like, these people are different, and that's the joke. But there's a scene where he's at the gym and they show him nude from behind, and he has no crack. His butt is just like smooth. and like and that's really what this reminded me of. So great, I love a great butt shot. Yeah. Yes. So we go into the house. It's just, like you said, it's a cute little house. I feel like my aunt had a house in upstate New York like this. Just like in the woods. It's probably near a lake. Oh, I think they are near some water.
Yeah.
And Joseph explains that the reason he's hiring Aaron is because he has a terminal cancer. He has a brain tumor the size of a softball, and he's going to die soon. And he wants to leave his son a video to remember him by.
Right. And he's very like optimistic in this introduction. Like he's even saying, he thinks he's going to beat it. And, again, like just adding to that like charm, like why would you doubt this person who's like so cheerful and like sweet and but he's also kind of like, it made me laugh because he just reminds me of like those like really toxic positive people sometimes. He's like, I just gotta keep eating right, gotta keep working out, and we're gonna beat this. And it's like, okay, sure you are.
And yeah, he's kind of weaponizing that positivity against Aaron to keep him in this situation.
Yes.
And immediately throws him a curveball where he decides it's tubby time. He says, we're going to take a bath together. And he's like, well, I'm going to take the bath. And he's like, it's not weird. I'm going to take the bath and you're just going to film me.
Yeah.
So he undresses and gets in the tub and then does this whole like mime act.
Yeah.
Washing his son's hair. And he says he used to take baths with his dad. And
it's so uncomfortable.
Talking like baby talk to him.
Yeah.
And to me, this like, and with there being no child, it just kind of emphasizes the weird ridiculousness of it. But also emphasizes just kind of like how stupid and weird people are with their children in general.
Yes.
And so I'm kind of like, this is both kind of creepy, but also like I totally see this happening in some family. Like it seems real.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and you have to wonder if maybe he's pulling from real experiences and it adds to this like level of, because spoiler alert, but like you never know what he's saying is true or not. So there could be some truth behind the weird action.
That's a good point. And it's so weirdly specific at all times, which is Just makes it really funny. And then again, another curveball, because then he immediately gets depressed and is like, maybe I should just end it all, and like sinks below the water.
Yeah.
He's gonna drown himself. But then pops up and is like, just kidding, let's go for a walk.
Yep.
So they go to get dressed and get warm for this hike through the woods. And Aaron screams because there's this very creepy wolf mask on a shelf in the basement. And Joseph's like, what is it? And he's like, what is that? And he's just like, oh, that's Peach Fuzz.
Peach Fuzz.
I fucking love Peach Fuzz.
I love Peach Fuzz. It, like, I feel like you cannot undersell how uncomfortable this does it. Am I imagining it, or does it have like, or maybe it's just the inside of the mouth is like red, so it looks like it almost has blood in its mouth.
It's the creepiest mask.
The hair is just so cattywampus, just all over the place.
It's so scary. Oh, and yeah, it is. You can buy one on Amazon or similar.
Really?
One. Yeah, it has the red wolf tongue.
Wow, I know what I'm being for Halloween.
Peach Fuzz would be a great costume.
Honestly, it'd be a nice, easy one.
But he talks about his dad again, and he says that his dad created Peach Fuzz to get along better with children, and he sings this little Peach Fuzz song. God. I'll put the song in the video. For in the podcast so people can listen to it.
Hello, my name is Peach Fuzz. I might look like I eat you up, but I'm as friendly as a rabbit, and I'd make a very good friend. Peach Fuzz, I am here, and there's nothing to fear.
I don't know if you have any like intel on this, but like the song does sound improvised, so I don't know if that was a conscious decision beforehand to make something that they had already written sound, ad-libbed, or if it truly was, because it's very bizarre. It's a good time though.
It's a very good time.
Yeah.
And again, he blows it off. They're like, okay. So then they go off into the woods to this. They end up at this heart-shaped spring where they're going to kind of wade in the water a bit. And throughout, Joseph will kind of run off and disappear. And then pop out from behind a log and scream. Or pop out from behind a tree and scream.
Yes.
And
like every time Aaron's like, stop doing this. But Joseph, that's his name, right? Yeah. He's just having a great time doing it. So
there's one point where he takes the camera and turns it on Aaron, and it's like, you should see your face right now. And it just, to me, it's so genius the way this movie is taking cheap jump scares and like making them organic and kind of fun, where you're still jumpy, but then I mean, you can't be bad about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Such a good idea. So they go to the spring and they wade into it, and Joseph is like, I'm glad you're here. Like, I know this is an uncomfortable situation. I'm glad you're sticking with me. And is this when he tells him so then they go to a restaurant to get some food, and Joseph admits that he had been taking pictures of Aaron this whole time.
Yes.
And when he showed up and was looking for him, and thought that if he got to know him, it would make him a little less nervous. And again, we're getting this weird, like, is this creepy? Is this
right?
What is going on here?
Is this endearing? Like, what is he? Yeah.
And then after this, we get probably, and I cannot believe I did not remember this part, one of the weirdest monologues of the movie. And this is when they get back to the house, and now it's dark. Sydney, it's dark now.
It's
dark. Probably been, I don't know, 45 minutes in the daylight, and now it's dark. And Aaron wants to go home, And Joseph is like, well, I just want to tell you one more thing, but I've never told anybody this. So will you turn the camera off?
Yeah.
So Aaron turns the camera off, but leaves the sound on. So you just have a dark screen and Joseph talking. And it's like the first time I remember, I don't know what to think. And this time, I don't know. I couldn't stop laughing because it's just like, just so wild.
Yeah. I mean, definitely the second time when you watch it, you know the context of, because I don't know about you, but like I did not guess sort of we haven't like addressed it full on, but can I say sort of like the plot twist of this
Yeah,
movie?
let's do it.
So he's not actually dying. He doesn't actually have a wife and a child and all of that. We've kind of alluded to it. But, you know, when you watch it the second time, obviously you know that. But when you watch it the first time, like, I mean, I'm really, really bad at guessing plot twists. I had no idea that was going to be the plot twist. Like, I had no idea.
Same.
Yeah. So, when you hear it the first time, you are like a little bit horrified because it's kind of disturbing. But the second time, you're right. It's a lot. It's a lot funnier the second time, but also in a weird way, almost more disturbing because then you know it's all coming from just his imagination. Like, this guy is, you know, he doesn't have to be this crazy weirdo stalking people. He could be an amazing writer, this guy. Like, what a fucked up imagination he has.
So just like Mark Duplass, like maybe, you know, you get into that too, where it's like, oh, like, I mean, these two guys wrote this story, you know,
that's true.
in the great scheme of things. And so what does that mean? But so the story is that he's talking about his wife and how he found bestiality porn on the computer. And
which, by the way, it's very funny the way he does because he's like, he starts off the story like, my internet was going slow. So I asked a friend at work what it could be. And the friend says that, you know, your browser history might be full, which, you know, I know cookies is a thing. I don't know that your computer will slow down because of your browser history. Am I wrong? I've been helping people with their computers for a while now. So I thought that was very funny, the way that it's set up. And yeah, he finds the videos and then you can go on.
Great. Thank you.
You take it from here.
He found this porn and he said, I wasn't looking at animal porn, Aaron. So
there's only two people who use that computer. Done it.
So he knows his wife is into bestiality porn. And so he comes home with the peach fuzz mask and ties her up and has sex with her.
Which this part kind of confused me too, because it's a little bit funny. He says that he breaks into the house in order to do this, but she hypothetically would be asleep by the time he got to the bedroom because he says that I don't know. I just think the breaking into the house was a little bit of a, overkill.
Yeah. He's committed to the bit.
Yeah. He could have gone through the front door, but no, he went full bit.
He goes for it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, ostensibly raping her. But he says, you know what? She enjoyed it. And she never realized it was him. And she never admitted what had happened. And like, everything's fine.
Yeah. Everything's fine. Yeah. It's such an uncomfortable. I will say, I think the choice to, I mean, obviously, you know, it goes with the story too, but, you know, the creative choice to make it so that you can't see him saying the story is very, very smart because it, you know, sort of, it doesn't associate that character's Mark Duplass's face with the story. And he has such a charming face. And also, I don't know that, like, I almost feel like I would doubt the story a lot more if I could see his face, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but like, I think it was a very good choice to have it in darkness. I think it was really impactful.
That's a really good point because it does make you more, confused. How should I take this? Like,
yeah, right.
And is this like as bad as I want to make it out to be?
Yeah. And it just like intensifies the like suspense of the story too, because you're like, oh, what's gonna happen when the camera goes back on?
Yes, and so the camera goes back on, and then Joseph is now acting quote unquote normal again, because
Yep.
the camera, his idea has been off the whole time.
Mhm.
And so Aaron wants to go, but his keys are missing.
Yeah.
So Joseph tries to get him to stay the night, and so Aaron drugs him by putting Benadryl into his drink to make him fall
Mhm.
asleep. And then while he's sleeping, Joseph's phone rings, and so he answers it, and it's I think the wife has a name, Angela
I
or
think it's
something,
Angela, yeah.
and it's Angela on the phone.
Mhm.
But it turns out that Angela isn't his wife, it's his sister.
Mhm.
And she says that Aaron should just leave the house right now. Just leave the house.
Yeah. She says something about how, her brother isn't, I think, right in the head is the like kind of the phrasing she uses.
Yeah.
And I love that scene. Like that's probably like just him talking to her is like one of the most tense scenes. And it feels like a very realistic conversation too.
It does. And we do hear the person on the phone. So there's like kind of one other character. There's this woman's
Mhm.
voice. She's voiced by Mark Duplass's actual wife, who is not Amanda
Oh.
Peet. And as you're talking about that, I thought it was funny. This is almost the same reveal as the other found footage movie we did, M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit, where they get a phone call and they're told the person you're in the house with is not who they say they are.
That is really funny.
Yeah.
Huh. And did this come out before?
Let's see. This is 2014, and The Visit, M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit, was the next year, 2015.
Oh, wow. M. Night Shyamalan.
Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting.
I think we have a case on our hands.
I know.
But it also, like, you could get like really deep and talk about how it's, horror in the age of technology and, I don't know. But if you wanted to go there.
Right. I'm not going to say, like, yes, when M. Night Shyamalan wrote The Visit, an entire publishing house accused him of plagiarism, but, I'm just putting some facts out there.
I'm just
I
kidding.
actually don't believe that, that he's
Yeah.
plagiarist. But
I agree.
mostly because, wow, this is me on the last podcast with M. Night Shyamalan. Love M. Night. People are so mean to M. Night Shyamalan. Me on this podcast, if he was a plagiarist, his movies would be better.
Also, like, not wrong. But also, I don't think he is, because I think he's so far up his ass. Why would he need inspiration from anyone else? Like, why would he need to take anything else?
He's in there.
Exactly. He is brilliant. He is show-stopping. He doesn't need their help.
Right. He's just a walking legend.
Yeah.
But, anyway, back to this movie. So we've got the reveal.
Mhm.
And Aaron is now trying to escape. Joseph wakes up. There's some scenes of him kind of running towards him, intimidating him, wearing the peach fuzz mask and blocking the door.
Yep. And kind of doing like a
escalating
little
to creepy level.
Yeah, he kind of does like a little dance in front of the door. Kind of starts like moving his hips.
It's true. He does do the dance, and it's like, is this dangerous? And we don't know, because Aaron asked the sister, "Is he dangerous?" And she like won't answer, and then the phone is dead.
Yeah. She kind of said, like, I think he asked her if he's dangerous, and she kind of just says, "You should just get out of the house."
Right. And so we're still not sure. We're like, is this a life-threatening situation, or is he just mentally ill? And we kind of yada, some things happen. Aaron ends up escaping, and then he's still filming himself because he's getting like DVDs in the mail from Joseph. He's getting a stuffed wolf in the mail from Joseph that when he cuts it open, it's a little heart locket with their pictures inside.
Yeah, it has a little A and a J. Which the first boy I ever asked out, his name started with a J, so I wish I had that locket.
It's y'all.
It's y'all. I should have done that. I should have put our little pictures in a little locket and sent it to him in a stuffed wolf with the DVD.
And then he had to cut it open to get it out.
And then he has to cut it open because that's the most romantic thing I've ever seen. He says something about, what does he say about the wolves? Like, he's always really liked them because they're like, when they like mate, they mate for life or something like that. Like, it's very uncomfortable.
Well, this is too, it's funny because now it's like, are we just getting into like he's a little mentally unstable
Yeah.
and obsessed slash attracted to Aaron. Is there some
Yeah.
homoeroticism here? Like, what is
Yes.
happening?
Right. And this is where on my second rewatch, I think I got a lot more from the movie because I kind of forgot about almost this like whole section, like after he leaves the house.
Mhm.
Because the iconic part of the movie is arguably when he's in the house, like when he's, tubby time, like seeing him in the peach fuzz mask, like those are kind of but we're only about, I think it's a little over halfway now. So a lot of the movie is it becomes this like thriller, this stalker thriller.
Yeah.
And I completely forgotten about that. And honestly, I think it's like the strongest part of the movie.
Oh wow, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I really enjoyed actually like the last bit of the movie.
It's good. This is where I think to me, the first time I watched it, this is when I was the most confused in a good way. I'm like, what is happening? And
Yeah.
as I knew where it was going, I was personally a little less invested in this part.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
And we also get a part where Joseph has broken into the house and has turned on the camera and is filming him just cutting a lock of Aaron's hair to
Yeah.
keep.
And he also like pans down Aaron's body and like he lingers on his foot for a second.
That's right.
And then was it before or after this? I feel like because honestly, this part, while I really liked it, it is a lot of just like beats of just like this day, creepy, this day, if you've ever watched a movie with a stalker, like it does kind of follow similar, tropes. But I can't remember if it's before or after that. I think it's before. I love it as like a horror, like just a traditional horror movie scary shot where Aaron leaves the camera on his end table and it's this shot that goes through his bedroom door all the way across the house and you see Joseph in the glass door.
Yes.
Although it does end kind of funny because then Aaron like turns and Joseph just falls, just like goes down to like avoid him.
Yes.
So there are some really like unsettling, unnerving parts to this.
The framing is really, really good. Yeah. And then we finally get like a I can't remember if it's a phone call or if he gets a video. But he gets a message from Aaron gets a message from Joseph trying to apologize. Like, sorry, I've been lying to you. I'm sad. I'm lonely. I've been trying to get help and no one can help me. Can you meet me in this public place so that I can apologize and we can have closure?
Yes.
And so
this is the point where I was rewatching it and it's funny because I was originally going into this, I think talking to you about this has made me like this movie a lot more because my issue when I watched it the second time is like, I wish it had committed a little bit more to the, like, not the comedy, like, I'm not saying it should have been a horror comedy, but I wish it had just like but with that being said, like now speaking with you out loud about it, I'm realizing like how many like little subtle sort of intricately like silly moments there are, like just kind of like ridiculous moments, I guess is maybe a good way to phrase it.
Yeah.
And because at the end of the video, this is my favorite part, I think, of the whole movie. At the end of the video, Aaron pauses it and I think the camera is off of Joseph when he's talking about it. I can't remember. But Aaron pauses the video and he says, like, into his video camera, like, oh my God, look at him. He's so sad. And he pans it over to the screen. And Joseph is just making like the saddest, like, sad turtle face. He's so fake. I think at that moment, like, I really was like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, but again, now speaking with you retrospectively, I think, the movie really like heightens this sort of like it's not absurd. It's not like, I don't want to sit here and say it's like some absurd horror comedy thing, but like, it just points out all of these like little things that we as an outsider might think are like funny or ridiculous, but in the moment make sense. And this was like really a moment where I was like, how could you believe that face? But with everything that he's gone through, it makes a little bit more sense.
Right. It's like both funny and also makes more sense. Makes
Yes,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. Just his face is so funny. He looks like a little sad turtle. It's so funny. I want to like print it out and put it somewhere in my room.
Be
I
a
love
good
it.
t-shirt.
It would be a really good t-shirt. Yeah. Yeah, just like
And
creep.
oh, with his little face.
That would be good merch.
Yeah. They
Hit us
should
up.
right, exactly. Yeah, we should go in on that collab.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the sad turtle face works. Aaron decides
Yeah.
to go to this park. He puts the camera like where it's filming this lake and this bench. And he tells the camera that he has like 911 on speed dial in case something goes wrong. And he sits on the bench. And while he's sitting on the bench looking out into the lake, Joseph starts to creep up behind him, wearing the peach fuzz mask, and pulls the axe out from under his coat and like kind of holds it up over his head. And then boom, puts it in Aaron's head, like clock.
Yeah,
And
it's a
kills him.
gross noise. I don't know what they did to make that scene happen, but it looks so realistic in that it looks so like subtle isn't the word, but it looks so like blood doesn't go flying or gushing,
Right.
it just goes in and it makes this awful noise and he just falls. Oh
yeah. Oh, it's really well done.
horrifying.
And also, like, I remember watching it the first time and I was like, is this gonna be another joke? Is he gonna kill him? And until the moment the axe went in his head,
yes, exactly.
I was like, what's gonna happen? I thought it was just really brilliant.
Same. Yeah.
And then we do get a little like epilogue because Joseph talks into the camera and it's kind of like him revealing his whole thing. And he does say that Aaron was his favorite. He did think he was a genuinely good person. And he then like has this collection of DVDs and we learn that he's done this to other people.
Yeah,
before.
but Aaron's has a heart on it. No one else's does.
So he does love him.
I honestly I think that's a really brilliant like detail because it if you like the first time I watched it I was like my immediate thought was he doesn't actually really care about what I mean, like I immediately was just like, this guy's psychotic, he says this about every single person that he kills. But when you see the little heart and no one else is done, it's like actually like, oh,
that's true.
Special.
It meant something.
Yeah.
And then
Sweet.
That's it. we get the idea that he's going to do it to someone again, and then in the sequel he does. We get more on that. But this is not about the sequel. So we are going to take a break, and we will return with our Gothic roundup. All right, Ghosties, we're back with our Gothic roundup. All Gothic films have 4 elements: a girl, a guy, a house, and a haunt. This one may not seem like a traditional Gothic. It definitely isn't. But I do think that like Aaron and Joseph as girl and guy fit really well into those tropes.
I agree. Like this, girl, Aaron, being lured to a place, sort of getting, he has absolutely nothing to do with Joseph and just becoming like so involved and enwrapped in his life. And these two forces coming together. I absolutely agree.
And always thinking, should I leave? Should I go? And then by the time you decide to leave, maybe it's too late to leave.
Yes. Yeah, agreed.
Good play on this trope.
And Aaron is, we talk about it a lot, like, the Gothic girl is usually pretty crafty and, has some wits about her. And I think Aaron is. Screw you, Shelby. Is that her name? I don't even remember anymore.
I love it. It's not even worth remembering her name.
Right? Because Aaron, the Benadryl, baller move. Like,
yes,
so
I'd forgotten that. Yeah, very good.
The Benadryl was a great move. He does call the police. I think that's something else that, Shelby failed to mention is that he does call the police, but he doesn't get any support there.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Aaron, I think, fits the Gothic girl trope in that he is crafty and he goes into the final scene being as prepared as he can the only thing that fails him in the end is his, him being naive.
Yeah, he's too trusting.
Yeah.
Which is often how the Gothic girls get in these situations in the first place.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And we have a cute little house. Definitely, far from a creepy Gothic house, which I think works in this movie's favor. As you said, it's just like a normal house in the woods.
Yeah.
Turns out this is Mark Duplass's house. It was one of his
Oh, wow.
properties that he owned. It's in Crestline, California, which is 1.5 hours from Los Angeles. He put it on the market in 2017 for, honestly, for what little I know about California real estate, this seems like a steal. $243,000.
Are you kidding me?
Like, I wish I could go back in time and somehow buy this house. And the LA Times said that this house is perfect for anyone passionate about nature and indie horror films.
Oh.
And it was reported as sold the next year.
Wow.
So this is how they described it in the. Yep.
I was gonna say, I wonder if they'll ever make it into like an Airbnb. That would be really fun.
I would totally stay there.
Yeah, Gothic vacation.
Yes, that'd be so much fun.
Yes.
And have pancakes. They get to see if the peach fuzz mask is in
gotta get
the bedroom
peach
closet.
fuzz. Yeah. Yeah.
If I bought this house, I would keep a peach fuzz mask in
You
the
have
house.
to. Absolutely.
Yeah. But this is how they described it. They said it's a loft style kitchen, sits adjacent with custom tile floors, modern wood and chrome appliances. Dark hardwood lines the bedrooms and living spaces, which lead out to 2 large decks that span the length of the home. The mountain residence also has 2 bathrooms and a laundry area.
Wow, and that was under $300,000.
I can't believe
away.
it. Like, it's not a small house.
Yeah.
Like, it's as I said, it's a 2-bedroom house. So
right, and it's in California, and
it's an hour from LA.
I was gonna say, like, it's not like a short commute, but it's drivable to LA.
Yes.
I'm blown away. I want to live there. That's so unfair. That was the steal of a century. Whoever got that.
I know. I couldn't believe it.
Damn.
So yeah, whoever got that got a deal. So
yeah, please invite us over.
Enjoying living there. Yeah, and please invite us. We'd have so much fun.
I'll bring a pot roast, I promise.
Okay. Yeah, I make really good cocktails, so and I won't put Benadryl in them, so I promise.
Sure.
And then last but not least, we have our haunt, and there's no like supernatural element. We've got the kind of like, I mean, it's in the title, the creepy element of it.
Yeah.
But this makes me think of what we've talked about a few times with our American Gothic and how the fear often in American Gothic is this fear of the unknown. And this movie, I think, also brings in these modern fears of just like fear of intimacy, like fear of like, especially early on, it's like, I know the movie's called Creep, but like he wants to give the guy a hug. Why is that making me uncomfortable? Like, is it making me uncomfortable because he is so sweet and just like has no boundaries and like is doing this, and like the movie plays with that in a really interesting way.
Right. Something I'm like constantly torn about is like society's relationship with true crime, because I think in a lot of ways it's really damaging how much we trust people. And obviously this movie is not real. This is not a documentary. As far as I know, it's not based on anything true. But I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit. But basically, like, true crime has really affected our ability to trust people. And I think overall, I believe that's harmful. But then you do get the people who support true crime and that, you should be a little bit more distrustful. You should, and obviously in this case, maybe he should have been more distrustful. But also I think that this movie maybe is trying to highlight the extremes that have to happen in order for that to be true.
Right. No, and I agree with you. Like, I think there's a lot of people who, they're just, I don't know, the true crime seeds this fear that everyone is out to get you and danger lurks around every corner. And I think that, I don't know. I mean, but I feel like that does cause more harm than you're probably more likely. I feel like this is completely pulling statistics out of my ass, but I feel like you're more likely to be ignored in a time of need than you are to be murdered.
Yeah, right. Like
You know?
exactly. Exactly. Like again, I don't know if that's a true statistic, but it feels right to me.
It feels right.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this movie, as silly as it is, kind of a good horror movie, going back to what the
Mm.
person wrote on Roger Ebert, because it like preys on that. It's like you
Yes.
want to help this person if what he says is true. Like, I don't want to neglect him. I want to reach out. But he is
Absolutely.
preying on those tendencies in his victims.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting, like, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier too, like interesting exploration into mental health because this is someone who's clearly struggling from mental health, but he's smart enough to know how to manipulate people. And so where is the line of obviously murder is a line.
There's a line.
Wasn't that like something funny that Gypsy Rose Blanchard just said on like The View? Is like Joyce Behar was like, you did what you had to do, and Gypsy was like, I murdered someone. Murder is not right, Joy. Like, it's like,
did she really? Oh my goodness.
Ridiculous. But yes, like the line is murder. But it's just like an interesting exploration of like, how even though he's seriously struggling with a mental illness, he is manipulating someone and he is, whether or not that leads to murder or if it just leads to an uncomfortably close relationship. Like, you have to be able to recognize that and set those boundaries. But I also don't blame Aaron.
No, I don't either. He is really sweet. He's just trying to do the best he can. He does end up feeling for the guy in some way.
He says he's really sad while he's making his little turtle face.
He's so sad.
Yeah.
And, we kind of can surmise Aaron is also sad and lonely. So there is some sort of, I feel like, people who are taken advantage of in situations like this are often in these vulnerable positions. Someone with a strong social network is less likely to fall victim to this type of scam, any type of scam.
Yeah.
And then it gets back to what you said though about us being more fragmented, like that as a whole is making individuals more vulnerable because you don't have this strong support network, safety net, whatever you want to call it. So, and that is that's a problem. That's an epidemic.
Yes, it really is. I mean, it's like, the whole, what was I watching recently? It was a horror movie and I can't remember what it was, but they were talking, maybe it wasn't a horror movie, but whatever. They were talking about how the main bad guy in the horror movie was like going through and trying to separate the group so that they could pick them off individually. And that's how I feel, a lot of violent people act now is instead of, they don't, it's very rarely the white van or the guy luring you to a house anymore. It's more often someone who is isolating you and taking you away from things that make you healthy and happy.
Exactly. And at the risk of this becoming a Netflix true crime podcast, like I also watch a lot of the ones about cults, and that's the same thing. All the people who join these cults with their charismatic leaders are lonely. They're vulnerable. They don't usually have good relationships with their families.
Yes.
Not a strong romantic relationship or strong friendships. And so they want this connection that they're lacking. And unfortunately they get it from someone who is also siphoning something from them, usually money, but also loyalty, trust, love, they're takers. And it's really unfortunate.
Yeah. Mild spoilers for Creep 2, and by mild I mean I'm just saying something that it's not. It would have been so funny to see Creep 2 just be Mark Duplass's character becoming a cult leader, because I feel like he could pull it off.
I will say I did read that they want to do a third one, but they haven't come up with an idea yet.
Cult
So
leader.
maybe they're listening. I'll put it in the show
Yes.
notes too, so that way they don't even have to listen. Like, we want you to listen. Please listen. Leave us 5 stars.
Yes.
But like, also
Right.
just do that. We don't even want money. We just want to talk about it.
Honestly.
Come on the podcast and talk to us about it later, and then we'll be
Oh
happy.
my God. I want like a Jared Leto level cult with Mark Duplass and like white robes.
Mhm. I would
That is
join.
what I want. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I would join. I sometimes I feel like I just haven't found the right cult yet.
I watched we're getting very off topic, but I'm gonna mention this. I think you recommended it. I watched the what's the one with like the online dating?
Twin Flames.
Twin Flames. I watched that one and I was like, I would have joined that in the early days for sure. For sure. Like it's a miracle.
What is the thing that they use where they decide if people are male or female? What was the term they use? Divine feminine and divine masculine.
Yes.
Do you think you're divine feminine or divine masculine?
Well, I think that if I had joined early, I would, automatically get to be the divine feminine, which would be very exciting. But if I was at the point where it was mostly women, they definitely would have put me in divine masculine for sure. I would have been one of the people who's like, what the fuck? Like,
I want to know how they would assign me. That's another thing with these cults is I always want to know what would they think of me. Like, sometimes I want to pretend just so like, I'll get like, I haven't gotten that role yet. Yeah, like I kind of want to sign up for Twin Flames and be like, what are they going to say to me?
Yeah, exactly. Where do you guys want me?
I've just given up on staying on topic, but since there's a Netflix true crime story about Lori Vallow, who was accomplice in killing her children.
Right.
And it's because she met this man who convinced her that her children were demons, and he would assign people a demon number based on how evil they are. And I want to know so bad and his name is Chad. I want to know what Chad thinks my demon number is.
Yeah.
Like, so bad. I want to know.
Is it like 1 through 100 or 1,000?
It might just be a 10-point scale.
Wow. Okay. So he's keeping it toy.
Yeah. I can't remember if there were decimal points. Like you could maybe be a 6.7.
Okay.
So yeah, but I feel like it was a pretty narrow scale.
Okay. Interesting.
And you also, I think, get a demon name because I think the theory is that a demon has taken over your body. So you're like now a 6.7 demon named like, Turakion or something.
Yes. Is that from Dune?
I think it's actually a Pokemon. Harkonnen is Dune.
Can I choose my demon name?
Yes. Now we've got full circle. Now I'm talking about Pokemon and true crime again. So let's bring it back to Creep. So do you think it's gothic? What do you think?
I want to say yes. Like maybe gothish, but there's something about it that's, you kind of said it earlier. Like it's an updated gothic. It's an interesting take on a gothic tale. What about you?
I agree. I feel like I've used this phrase a few times recently where I've called something a modern gothic. But I'm going to use it again. I think this is like the true modern American gothic. Like it's taking our current fears.
Yes.
And again, there's some movies where I think they are consciously making like a gothic. I don't think they have with this one. Like they've just absorbed these tropes that happen to be gothic. But I don't think, the intention doesn't necessarily matter. I think it still feels very rooted in this, and the gothic, going back to what we talked about, isolation, like the girl is isolated. Like the gothic has always been about isolation and longing. So it has also brought things kind of full circle to the way they were, 200 years ago.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've been playing it pretty fast and loose with that term anyway since Elvis. So I'm fine with this.
Yes. Gothic means nothing and it means everything.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I enjoyed this movie a lot more now speaking with you about it. Like I kind of want to go back and rewatch it again now.
We joked about Creep being a very serious movie, but I think we did have some of the more serious conversations we've had on this podcast during Creep. So
that is true.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Amanda, for that. This has been a delight. And thank you to the ghosties if you've listened this long through our true crime diversion and actually watched the movie maybe. So we appreciate you very much for listening to us break down Creep. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can rate and review us on Apple, on Spotify. You can drop us an email, sogothicpod@gmail.com, and follow us on Instagram. And sometimes we post there. So until next time, stay ghosty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.